Hello everyone! This episode is gonna be about emotions and how emotions actually work in your brain and in your daily lives. Why is it important to actually understand what an emotion in you is and how that works? Well, I think that I might actually clarify that for you in this episode and why you should pay attention to how it works in your life so that you do not do the mistakes that most people actually do. What most people don't understand about emotions is that an emotion is a semi-open system. What that means is that even though you can't do much about it, you can do it if you identify your triggers. An emotion is basically a reaction. Just like if you have a driver's license and you drive a car, and if you ever had to swerve for another car that was almost about to hit you, an emotion works the same way, in that you don't logically go into your subsystem 2, where your logic resides, and think about, should I react to this angrily, happily, sadly, or whatever. You probably realize that yourself when I speak about it. So that's what I mean by an emotion being a reaction, rather than something that you decide yourself consciously that you should feel. Even though you can trigger a feeling of sadness and happiness and being angry by yourself, it's quite easy. But when it depends on your life, or when you're in a specific state, you can actually be triggered by outside factors and environments, what's happening around you and what other people say and how their own facial expressions are. So what I'm trying to say is that even though you might think that you can control your feelings, you cannot. And let's go back to the driving scenario where you have to swerve from another car. It is not like you are yourself thinking about it to survive. Your body and your mind actually does that for you, in that you will only turn the car away from the car that's trying to hit you. So you can't actually do much about that, and you can't actually do much about a feeling once it's taken hold of you. And that's purely scientifically speaking. You don't have to believe what I'm saying, but I'm urging you to actually read more about feelings, and I'll put a link down below on where you can buy books from Dr. Paul Ekman, that has been the consultant on the series True Lies. You probably heard about it, where the actors look at each other and can spot if someone's lying. Here's a fun fact: you can't actually see in someone if they're lying or not, and there's a lot of problems that goes around that people think that they can see someone lying, and purely scientifically you cannot. The person has to admit that they're lying and admitting what they've done and what's happened, so that you can see that, yeah, they were lying. It's not as easy as people think, and I'll explain the problems with this in other episodes later on that I can refer to. Anyhow, let's get back to the feeling. A feeling, or an emotion rather, is built up of 1, a trigger, 2, a refractory period. Once you're triggered, the refractory period lasts about 4 seconds at the most. You might say that, nah, that's not my experience, but let's take sadness, for example. If you've been crying sometime, you can if you can recollect, you don't cry for an hour straight if you're not really, really, really sad. What you're doing is you cry in 4-second increments. You stop and you might feel that you're a horrible person because you don't cry constantly. But that's not how an emotion works. It is a reaction. It takes hold of you and then it dissipates. And it doesn't have to be for 4 seconds. It can be a microsecond, then it's gone. That's how you spot micro expressions. Emotions come out through facial expressions in all people, because your facial muscles actually are connected to your brain and your emotions. So if you think you can hide an emotion, you can't. That's impossible. But you will show it in your face, and you will try to mask it. We do that every day, especially at work or with others. Many people hide sadness, for example, with a smile, a fake smile. You can also hide emotions such as sadness with the following of anger. If you make someone sad, that will most likely come out as anger just after the sadness has dissipated, especially if you're the one making the person sad. Why it is important to understand how emotions work, it comes down to this. Emotions are raw, they are pure, they are authentic, they are who you are, but they are only reactions. And here's the problem with emotions. You see, what you experience during an emotion is locked into the emotion itself. What happens in your brain during the time you experience an emotion is that, let's take anger for example, which is very common. If you're angry, your mind locks out any information other than memories that amplifies or make you more angry. And it's very, very common that you import memories from another situation to amplify or make you're even angrier now. You're not even aware of it, but you do it. And here's an example. A funny one, but a horrible one, actually, when you think about it. There's a lot of memes going out and a lot of jokes that you can't tell your wife or your girlfriend bad things or make her angry, because she will remember every bad thing you did since you started dating. Yes, that is true. And here's why. The problem lies in when you actually are submitted or experience a feeling of anger, you can only access memories or information that are amplifying or making you more angry. And the worst problem of being angry or having an emotion is that you do put memories in your brain during that time that you experience that emotion. And the problem in that is that you will make memories that are even stronger than the memories that you put in your brain when you're not experiencing an emotion. And if you think about it, the huge problem with this is that, and don't miss out that during the time that you are experiencing emotion, you're locked. You can only take in information that will make you angrier. So if the person has been a wonderful person to you your whole life and made wonderful things, and you love the person beyond anything else, that will not be stored in that memory. So you will actually make a memory that is far from the truth. It is very much biased by anger. And that will stay with you for the rest of your life until you change it. But it's going to be hard to change it because it's imprinted during the time that you experienced emotion. And to come back to the meme of she will bring up every single situation you made her angry from when you started dating, that is true, because those memories are very, very strong in her. So she will bring it up. It'll be clear as day, even though it's not even clear. You'll probably think of it like, no, that's not what happened. Well, that's true. It is not what happened, because memories are not the truth. And as I explained with memories, and the problem with an emotion is that you can actually not make a memory during an emotion that is truthful, because you can't take in information and make a memory that is both happy, angry, sad, and all the wonderful things that the person is for you when you're not experiencing emotion. And that is also why you shouldn't believe your memories of a person that made you angry, because that is not the whole person. And you are not the same person when you're angry as when you're emotionless. It's sort of like you're another persona, like a split personality. And it's the same when you change to being happy, for example. You will only access memories that make you even more happy. Or if you're sad, you'll experience and import feelings and memories that made you sad before in history, that you have stored in your mind. And that's important to know, because if you are a neurotic person, which means you're emotionally unstable, if you're high in those, or the majority of those, you might be a person that actually experience feelings a lot stronger, even though the science is not very clear on what makes a feeling stronger or longer than others. There's still being research done on that by Paul Ekman, for example. And if you want to live a better life, and you are a person that is more emotional and easy get angry, for example, easy get sad, it's important for you to know that your feelings are merely a reaction to something else. And what you remember from those feelings and that you imprinted as memories are not the truth. They are more like memories and guidelines on what to do in life after that. But you should not take them as any sort of truth. Even though you may change them over time, which humans does every time they recollect a memory, you actually redo the memory a bit. So every time you bring up a memory in your brain, you're actually changing it slightly. And this we know through science as well, that if you remember something that a gathering when you were small, when you get older, my age, around 50, you will have changed out people, surroundings and other facts. Doesn't mean that you're totally wrong and you shouldn't be joyful about the memories that you have. But as a rule of thumb, you shouldn't trust yourself as much as you do, because memories are just your truth of what happened, but it's not the plain truth if you would have videotaped what happened. And you might be actually surprised if you videotape and record yourself speaking when you were angry and listen to it afterwards. You might not feel that you are all that sane, but that's another personality, and your mind is reacting to the feeling. You can't do much about that. But you can think about what triggers you in life. what triggers your feelings, and then when you are in that situation, you can actually break through cognitive behavioral therapy. There's lots of different types of methods you can use how to break an oncoming feeling. Some people in the world purely genetically don't become angry. They can feel the anticipation of anger coming hours before, and some people just don't have that in them. Others have anger issues known as IED, intermittent explosive disorder, which means that they can't control themselves when they get angry and they start smashing things around them. I've seen that happen with another person. It's not a pretty sight, and they're pretty unstable, usually high neuroticism. One of the most important things about emotions that people probably never have heard about is emotions have consequences to them, bigger consequences than people could imagine. And that is an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. You see, emotions have a consequence in that if I, for example, make you angry, you will pay me back in some way or form. Usually it comes out as passive aggressiveness back towards me quite soon after I made you angry, or it can linger depending on personality traits and if you build it up. But you will pay me back. You can be sure of that. And this you can test at home if you want. If you make your partner angry, watch the time after that and see how they come back passively aggressively, which is, by the way, unconsciously. They do not know that they're doing it, but they will feel good about it when they've done it. It's totally humane and normal that we do that, and it's inbuilt and ingrained in humanity as it is. It's nothing you can do about it, but acknowledge and understand that you too will pay back with the same coin, so to speak. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And if you bring that into context when it comes to emotion, you can quickly see the problem if you talk about a neurotic person which is emotionally unstable. For that person, it will be hard not to react and be emotional. That in turn will render that person more passive aggressive or paying someone back more than a person that is emotionally stable, because the emotionally stable personality will not get as angry as the emotionally unstable person. Hard word to say. Anyhow, so you can see how emotions have a rather grand implication in your life, and what you need to understand about yourself if you are a neurotic person, in that you need to understand that the person that is making you angry should not be paid back. And maybe, just maybe, you might be able to think differently during the time that you actually experience the emotion or afterwards. Because here's the thing about emotions. After the emotion has subsided or dissipated or disappeared, you will know what triggered it. That is a fun fact about emotions. You will know what made you angry. And if you compare that to being and having a mood that you're not aware of, but everyone else around you can see that you have a mood. The mood is the same as an emotion in that it has a trigger, but the refractory period can be up to 24 hours or more, and you're not aware of it. But the effects are just the same. That I'll talk about in a different episode, because that is a whole new problem that lingers in society, and which humanity actually could be without. I'll come to that in another episode. You should pay attention to your feelings and how you act during them and how they actually work, and that's why I'm trying to explain why it should be important to you to actually start thinking about your feelings and the memories that you imprint during the time of experiencing an emotion. If you're a person that has been in relationships where you've been self-destructive and talking about what the other person has done to you all the time, might that be that you're recollecting memories that you've been imprinting when you were previously angry because you are neurotic? Then you might actually seek help to dive into those types of behaviors that you have, so that you don't end up always breaking up with people that are in fact good people. Because you might be the problem yourself in your little world, because we see the world in different ways according to our personality and our values. And I'm going to talk about values in one of the upcoming episodes, so please stay tuned. And if you did like this episode, please like and subscribe down below, and go into the playlist or the other videos if you find something interesting, and write a comment below if you liked it or not. And if you have any questions, please write more so I know if I can do other types of videos for you.